This is Sketchbook. Yeah, a free drawing app called Sketchbook. Sounds basic enough. In a way, that's correct. But it's also much more than that. It sells itself as a literal digital sketchbook. It does work a lot like one, but it definitely holds much more capability for fully finished design. Hi, my name's Bageltime, and welcome back to another Drawing In. This series where I explore and review art programs solely by making fully completed digital drawings. Just upon opening the app, it launches directly into the last created canvas. As you can see, I already have some art in here. For a short time, I did use Sketchbook as my main art app from 2022 to 2023, so not too long ago. I even created some of my favorite older art pieces on here, like this one. But don't take that as a bias, as I had almost entirely forgotten that I had even used this art app before. Per usual, I got started with a fresh page. I typically like my dimensions in 5000 to 5000 because that leaves me enough room for several layers. As with most art programs, the size of the canvas can limit your layers due to the file size when necessary for importing your pieces. And it allows for a higher DPI, which means dots per inch, so my resolution will be much better than with a smaller size. The user interface is really nice and clean. Opacity and size sliders on the left next to the brushes, layers on the right, and various different tools at the top. From left to right, we have the menu button, undo and redo, the general lasso tool that most art apps have for moving, another moving tool for more controlled moving, bucket fill, which also has gradient uses, unlike Procreate, a ruler with which has straight, curved, and circular options, a symmetry tool, a shapes tool, aggressive smoothing tool, and a slightly less aggressive smoothing tool that pretty much works the same. Photos import button, perspective, words or sentences or fonts, the recording button, and a full screen option. From then on, I played with the brushes. All the brushes are free, so it's an incredibly wide selection. I believe that making new tools is also one of the premium only features. There's a wide selection of various painting, airbrushing, and ink tools, as well as much more. The color tools are also easy access. You have a color picker right there and there, various different sliders and rings, which you can change to suit your liking. I, for one, particularly like how the complementary color option is so easy. It's just right there. These are all in that little movable capsule. As per layers, you have many different modes. They call the layer style blending mode, which I thought was kind of hilarious because to me, it's always just been layer settings. And with that, it's just the usual multiply or divide and such different layer changes. Unfortunately, I've been dealing with issues with my longer screen recordings becoming corrupted or just plain being too big for my video editing app. So I can't show you the entire start to finish of my drawing, although I still have the footage for it. Sketchbook also has a built-in screen recording function, but unlike my main program, Procreate, it isn't a stay-on feature, so every time I leave and return, I have to make sure I turn it back on, which is the same process for my iPad screen recording function, which I manually have to turn off and on every drawing session. But the main difference is that when a work in progress is in front of my face, I typically forget to turn on the recording option. So generally speaking, I will be sticking to the regular iPad recording function. I found this Cary Grant reference on Pinterest. Didn't even know it was him when I picked it out, but my family immediately mentioned it after the fact. It wasn't quite to my liking, so I changed his position and brought his head to tilt the other direction, towards her. Mind you, my intention wasn't to heavily use this reference for anything but help for the pose, so that left me guessing what to do for my background. I needed them sitting, so the hunt was on for a good angled bench. I saved a few, but settled on this one. I kept the background and just painted it up onto the canvas instead of using the photo itself. The fall leaves were a little too much for me, so I skipped them and settled for a few chunks of debris on the hill. The brush I ended up using for the sketch layer is actually kind of yummy. I was tempted to use it for my line art as well, but I found a solid ink brush instead. My idea wasn't wasn't fully formed. Although I had finished the bodies, I wasn't settled on a background yet. I didn't want something easy, but I also didn't want it to be complicated and distracting. But it itched and itched, a little calling in my head to just play ball and do what I really wanted, which was an after-action shot. Smoke and fire drifting in the background, while our heroes or our antagonists find a moment of peace away from it. To further add to the effect, I scuffed their clothes up, assuming they were close to what had been an explosion. This was very fun. Here, I color picked and played. Bucket tool made itself so handy on this step. By now, if you're a regular fan, you might have recognized this guy. He's one of my original characters. I've introduced him before in a other video, but she is also an original character. Let me explain. I drew this girl once before on paper, liked her face, redrew her digitally, and then essentially redrew her here. I didn't follow too hard the models. I slightly changed her lips and eyebrows, lost the distinct headband as it didn't fit in the theme, but technically I had her in mind when designing the character. While the lasso and reshaper tools were absolute lifesavers, I wished there might have been a liquidify function. I was hunting for a layer mask. I don't like drawing within my actual layers. If I mess up the rendering, there's less room for fixing it. Plus, I often use different modes for my shading and highlights to make them more intense. But lo, it seems the layer mask is behind a paywall, which is major sadness for me, but I suppose Sketchbook has to make money some way. The rendering was an enjoyable process. I stuck to one brush for the whole piece, had a great amount of control with the pen pressure without having to hunt around in the settings, and it made it so much easier. Can I say, I think it turned out gorgeous. Even the background was satisfactory. The only thing that messed at me was the anatomy errors that had slipped through from my mistakes I didn't catch within the sketch. I ended up importing the piece into Procreate for further editing, which you can see here. I thought the quality function was super cool. You can choose from good, better, to best. Good being a smaller file size and less megabytes, or whatever you nutty electronic people call it, and best being the literal best. There is a slight noticeable difference between the modes, good being more pixely, but frankly, not bad. One thing I kept mindful of during the whole process was saving to gallery. I did have a minute crash experience early in the drawing, and while it had saved most of the strokes I had made until maybe 2 minutes before the crash, in other words, it didn't save everything, but most of it. Just a rule of thumb, anything that doesn't have a very clear, constant autosave function, save it every single time you remember. Overall, I think Sketchbook is a pretty great free art program. There are a few premium limitations, but they don't generally take away from the experience. There are only a couple of negatives for me, such as the constant saving as I'm a nervous Nelly, no free layer mask, and no liquidation, though I suppose not very many apps have that feature. But there's also some pluses in the mix, such as the easy gradient feature in the paint bucket setting, and the gorgeous free brushes, and the super simple user interface. Overall, Sketchbook holds its own as an easy, accessible, free drawing program. If you're looking for a new art program, or perhaps not ready to make the jump yet, I believe Sketchbook could be worth your time. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in more drawing in reviews, I have plenty. And until then, sweet dream and lots of love. See ya!